Hey, party people! Welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, where the gaming table is always set for two. I am your host as always, Jeff Stormer. This week, I am joined by Erika Chappell once again for a playthrough of her new game, Blackout. Blackout is so freaking cool, gang. It is a World War II game about women civil defense workers during the London Blitz. It tells stories of ordinary people stepping up to save lives and rescue people during a time of unbelievable national crisis. I am completely enamored with this game. It is really interesting and neat and cool as hell. You should absolutely check it out. You can find more information in the show notes. And before we get started, I do want to take a brief second to just thank everyone that hung out with me and played games with me and took time to say hello during Gen Con. Not to get too emotional about it, but it was a really special moment that I will never forget, and I'm so happy that so many people could be a part of that. Thank you so much. I am still riding high on that a few days later, so, yeah, thank you all so much. And with all that out of the way, let's throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. This week I'm sitting down once again with Erika Chappell. Erika, thank you for coming back on Party of One.
It's great to be here.
So, this week we are playing Blackout, which is one of your newest games. I say one of because you make a lot of games.
Yep. This is, I put this out as one of my monthly games on my Patreon. I don't usually write 80-page full-color games on my Patreon every month, but, I did this time.
The game looks and sounds super cool, so why don't you give me the pitch? Give me and the listeners at home the big pitch of the game.
Sure. So, there's actually kind of a cool backstory to this game, like how it came to be, which is, my dad, who is sort of responsible for a lot of my nerdy loves, he's a huge Anglophile, so he takes a lot of trips to England and brought me along for a couple of them. So last year I was in London, and going to museums, which is my favorite thing. I was in the Imperial War Museum, and they had a display that had all of the uniforms of different, women's auxiliary units in Britain during the Second World War. And so they had, like, the Women's Voluntary Services and the Air Raid Precaution Services and the Women's Air Auxiliary and all that. And I was looking at it like, man, this is a party. Like, this is a role-playing party right here. So I did some research and I came up with this idea of a game about civil defense. So in Blackout, you play members of the Air Raid Precautions and Women's Voluntary Services, which were two organizations that, the Air Raid Precautions was a civil organization for keeping people safe during air raids, obviously. And the Women's Voluntary Services was a all-female, organization of the British government whose job it was basically to keep people, keep morale up among soldiers and civilians during the war. Sort of like the USO.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So Blackout is set during the London Blitz when the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force, was in the process of attempting to force Britain to surrender through bombing London. And so every night they would fly bombers over the British cities, London and a lot of other cities, and attack them with bombs and incendiaries and all sorts of other nastiness. And people tried to take shelter where they could in the underground and in home shelters, but there was a lot of people who had to go out into the streets to fight fires and rescue survivors and do all these sort of things. And I wanted to write a game about them, so that's what Blackout is.
Awesome. I'm super, super beyond excited to play this game. This is going to be really, really good. So, you are going to be running the show this week. I'm going to be playing. So I'm going to go ahead and, so walk me through let's walk through the character creation process. We haven't made the character yet, though I have picked out my identity and role.
Yep. So, I got, one of the things that's kind of fun about this is that this game acts as sort of a testing ground for some of the weird stuff I've been experimenting with in Powered by the Apocalypse games. It's actually sort of a dry run of two mechanics for Flying Circus that I'm really happy with. One of them being making a character out of two different character sheets that you put together, and the other being a help mechanic, which, this being a single-player game, will only sort of narrowly touch.
Sure.
But the way that you make characters in this game is that you stick together an identity and a role, which is, the Flying Circus version is sticking together a plane and a pilot. So your identity is sort of where your character comes from in terms of, life. Very specifically, this is being a game about, mid-20th century Britain. It's a lot to do with your social class.
Mm-hmm.
All the characters in Blackout are women because I wanted to write that game.
Sure.
So there's 5 different identities that is sort of a cross-section of British life in London in 1940. So there's sort of a representation of 3 different social, the 3 economic classes. So the rich, the middle class, and the poor. There's an educated woman to represent the sort of increasing role of university educated students who were female in British society, and an older woman who could sort of act as a mentor character. Mm-hmm. And then there's 5 roles. Your roles are what you do for civil defense, which are air warden, rescue services, first aid parties, fire guard, and welfare services. And sort of in an ideal game of this, you'd have one of each role and one of each identity mixed however you wanted. Sure. So the game would always be different while still covering the bases of everything you need to deal with a disaster scene.
That's super cool. I love that. I love the idea of putting together the whole picture of things is really interesting. Which is why we're going to cut out 80% of that right now.
Yep, we're just going to get rid of it. This game, all my games these days, has a one-player mode. This game has a lot of interaction between characters, but player characters, but you can sort of simulate some of that with NPCs if you do a little bit of changes. So it's a Powered by the Apocalypse game. It's got pretty simple moves. Mm-hmm, it's got some weird framework, and it's got some fun character creation. So we should get to it.
Let's do it. So I've picked out my identity and role. Maxine Moxie Hoover is a working lass, a factory girl, early 20s, young. She has found herself in the rescue services.
All right.
She figures it's the best thing for her as somebody with I guess you'd call them sticky fingers. She's got she's had a run-in or two
with the law,
with the police before the war. But so she found herself in rescue services. She was a volunteer for it. She kind of jumped into it. She's an upstart, and Uncle Jaxie fought in World War I, and didn't have the greatest of time. He wasn't exactly didn't come back God and country. So he figured the best thing to do was to stick with the people that you love, stick with your community. Rescue services seemed like the best way to do that. She joined up out of a sense of solidarity with her neighborhood, I guess I should say. She signed up with a sense of solidarity in her neighborhood, but she is not one for taking to rules. And that is my role and my identity.
Something interesting is that the rescue services weren't open to women by regulation, but that regulation tended to go away when stuff was exploding.
That makes sense.
So, and they they found that women could usually get into places that men couldn't, which was really helpful when a building collapsed. Sure. So this is kind of interesting. You might have another job that you're supposed to be doing, mm-hmm. but you know what you need to do when you arrive at a site. All right. Cool. So let's quickly go through and after making your character as a group, which is to say you, we make a community. So the communities in this game are, you sort of build a high level view of what part of London, what fictional part of London you live in. So at the end of the playbooks, there's the community sheet, which has a couple of tags at the top that you can sort of pick to give some character to the place before we jump in. And then we're going to make locations at the place using the places on your identity playbook. So basically, if you have a smaller than 5-person team, the community will always reflect the identities that you chose.
Sure.
So the big choice to make when making a London neighborhood is, are you on the East End or the West End? though the East End is sort of the poorer, industrial, residential part, and the West End is the affluent, cultured end of the city.
Oh, East End, definitely.
For sure. All right, so there's a couple of other, like, sort of, words that you could use, like, so probably not affluent, but maybe industrious, crowded, old, new, skews young, skews old, vital war industries, neglected, vibrant, poor, immigrant, riverside, isolated, like a bunch of these options. So, like, how do you feel about this community, and do you have a name for it? Can you come up with a London-y name off the top of your head?
Ashford is, it's industrious. It is I think there's a lot of factories.
All right.
So I think vital war industries also makes sense, because it's a lot of,
Cool.
like, factories that have been I'm picturing pack factories that have been repurposed for the war, basically.
Excellent. All right, cool. That's pretty much what we need for this. So let's go through some places really quick. So, where does your character live?
She lives in she lives in an apartment, she lives in an apartment building in Ashford. It's, sort of run down, like it's old, like it's older, but it's not particularly, like, super nice, but it's not run down per se. Like, it's...
All right, so you kind of lucked out on the housing game a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So let's get a person to associate with that. Like, let's say the landlord.
Yeah.
Or the landlady. What are they like?
The landlady is, too old for this shit by half.
All right. Definite name, Mildred.
Mildred, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, so what we're doing right now is we're basically creating all the places that are going to get hit.
Sure.
So this game basically is make everything important to your character so we can blow it up. All right, so Mildred, who is too old for this shit, at your apartment. So next up, you work at a factory as your day job. What does the factory make?
The factory before the war made, it was a textile factory, so it made, I'm thinking like home goods, sheets and that type of thing.
All right.
And then it's been sort of repurposed into making, uniforms and other sort of textile goods. Like other
cool
sort
parachutes.
of war. Yeah, parachutes is a good one. And, I think it's not a great fit. Like, we're sort of, like, the personnel and the technology is not sort of designed for that kind of level of, like, precision and testing, but we're sort of pushing through on it.
Yeah, you're making a lot of, like, tarps and stuff.
Yeah. And we're, like, it's elbow grease and ingenuity to get these things to where they need to be.
All right, so what's the foreman like at this factory?
He's nice. He is... I'm gonna say his defining thing is he's lenient. He doesn't, he tends to look the other way if you, he was young once, and I think he's lenient towards, like, kids being kids.
Alright, let's call him Kenneth. I think that's a good name for that guy.
That's a good name, yeah.
Alright, so let's get one more spot. So you got a bunch of, places on your identity sheet.
Yeah.
If you see one that jumps out at you, that would be pretty good. I can come up with something if you can't. Oh, wait, I know. There's an obvious answer. Where do you go drinking?
Oh, we go drinking, not at the bingo hall, but behind the bingo hall.
Nice.
Some of the old ladies, you know, They unwind with a little brandy after the bingo cards get heated. And, you know, if you're back behind the bingo hall when the bottle is being passed around, they don't ask questions about who you are. So we a few of us tend to hang out around the bingo hall.
All right. So I think I know who is at the bingo hall. So Shirley runs the games at the bingo hall. Doesn't own it or anything, but is the caller, I believe.
Yeah, the bingo caller.
Yeah. And is also the one that supplies the booze.
Yes.
And Shirley, it doesn't take the war very seriously. She remembers the last one, and it wasn't such a big deal. You know, everyone lost their head about the Germans flying overhead, but I never saw anything get bombed. So Shirley is not taking this very seriously at all.
Yeah.
All right. So there's our places, our locations. So I think we're ready to get started.
I have one question, which is...
Go right ahead.
It says take 3 moves on the identity, or on the roll. Is that 3 moves between the identity and the roll?
Nope, you will get, you pick your identity moves, and your roll moves, you'll get them every time you finish a site, you get another roll move. So your character, because basically this is a game for one-shots, so you advance very quickly in this game.
So should I pick identity moves, or do I not get them at the start?
You get your identity moves, and you don't get roll moves. So pick the ones from...
got it. I got the...
Yeah, you had
the
Sticky
2 mixed
Fingers,
up,
you had Solidarity, but your Rescue Services moves you'll get as the game goes on.
Got it, okay. Perfect. Cool. Then I am ready to go. Moxie's ready to roll.
Alright, cool. So, where is Moxie sort of as night is starting to fall? Your shift is over, and, you know, the blackout started, but there's no air sirens yet. So what are you doing?
We, a few of the girls have, we're taking a smoke break in, some of the alleys behind the factories as we kind of take the long way back to the apartment. I think several of us in the factories work in the same apartment, like, complex.
That makes sense.
And so we're all kind of like, we're taking a smoke as we go through the sort of back alleys to our apartment.
Alright, cool. So you're hanging out with Alice and Lillian, and you're sort of strolling back to your apartments. The streets are dark, so you're moving a little quickly, but you're also not too worried because everybody's inside because the Germans have been flying over every day, and the air wardens are patrolling the streets everywhere, so it's pretty safe. And you're just sort of talking about the day and the other people that in the factory, trading gossip, all that sort of stuff. And you nod as you pass by a warden who's trying to get the attention of somebody in a house who hasn't turned off a light yet. You're sort of hanging out with your friends here, so let's play the scene out and roll make time.
Okay.
To sort of, you're having a human moment with your friends here.
Yeah.
So that's 2d6 plus soft.
All right. It's a 9 on the dice, and my soft is, I think, -1. No, it's +0, so I got a 9.
Cool. Now, I'm going to ask you to roll another dice, just 1d6.
Okay.
Because before the first bomb falls, and then subsequently, every time you roll a miss, you're rolling on the raid chart, which is to determine sort of when the bombs fall.
Got it.
That is totally dynamic in this game.
I rolled a 1.
Oh, fun!
Right?
Okay, cool. So you can still see the factory sort of down the street. You've just sort of made it around the corner. And you're talking. So let's pick really quick. When you take time with NPCs, choose from the list, and in addition to the stuff on the list here, you also have gain a bond with the NPC, because this is a single player version.
Yep.
So pick one of those, and then we'll resolve the thing.
I'm going to pick I'm gonna gain a bond. I'm gonna pick gain a bond.
Alright, so you and Lillian are you're bonding over some gossip. You're talking about, some of the, that boy Henry, he's gone from the factory. What, already? Yeah, he's signed up apparently, And then you hear a crash behind you. The sirens start up belatedly, a little late, and you think for a moment how, they don't even start the sirens until the planes get over the west end. And then you turn to see that the factory that you were just in, the building that you just left, is there's flashes behind the windows as they burst out, and the roof begins to slide and collapse in on itself. One of the smokestacks slowly pitches over, and you realize that the place is packed. Of course, there's 24-hour shifts now that the war's on, and it seems like the war has come a little early. So what do you do?
The cigarette falls from my mouth. I look at my friends, and I say, I'm rescue services. I mean, this is what I do. This is my job. So,
I'm gonna say that, Lillian works in the first aid, so she's coming with you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think what I'm doing is looking at all of the girls, and I'm like, we gotta go. Like, we gotta do this. Yeah. It's...
Alice doesn't volunteer, but she's coming along anyway, because, there's work to be done. Alright, so, you run down the street towards the building. It doesn't... You've seen a couple of bombs land in your neighborhood, and this doesn't look as bad as it could be. It looks like something just crashed through the roof and exploded. But so as you sort of get clear, you see that there's some burning from the fabric on the inside, and you're hearing people moving around on the inside and groaning. So what do you do?
I'm going to look. I'm going to try and find the safest way into the building.
All right, cool. So roll me size up. That's plus wise.
Not my best. Oh, that's a 3.
Oh boy! All right, so I'm going to need you to roll again.
I got a 3.
Just on one dice.
Yeah, I got a 3 on the one dice as well.
Okay, you're good.
Yep.
So the raid clock goes up 1, and you also, using these moves marks exhaustion. See the little circle-y bit on your identity sheet?
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to gain exhaustion as it goes on, and so you need to be ready to take breaks.
Yeah.
And deal and work with your comrades and stuff, or you're going to kind of fall apart.
Right.
So all right. So on a 3, so you can still ask me 2 questions, but don't expect accurate or fun answers.
Sure.
All right.
How can I get in there?
All right, so you go for the door, and you put your hand against the door, and the doorknob is hot, so there's something burning on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like the way that you're going to have to get in is you're either going to have to go the long way through one of the loading docks, which means negotiating around the vehicles that are in there and going the long way in, or you can get a boost onto the roof and go in through one of the broken windows.
All right. Who is? Let's see. Where's Kenneth?
Where's Kenneth? Kenneth was probably being the foreman. He liked to walk the gantries above the factory floor, so he was probably going to be up there.
All right, I'm gonna turn to Alice, and I'm gonna say, Alice, give me a boost. I'm going up.
All right, cool. So you step up onto the thin sheeting roof, and you start making your way over the broken glass towards the factory. So I would like you to as you sort of move your way through the broken window, roll me press on.
Okay.
So that's plus nerve.
Great. That is an 8.
All right, I need you to choose one. You are injured, the situation gets much worse very fast, or someone else is endangered.
Someone else is endangered.
All right, cool. So as you sort of move through the window, the window frame gives way underneath you. You've already made it onto the second floor of the building on the other side, but as you pass through, it gives way under your hand, and you scramble to safety and glance below to see that a couple of people who are trying to fight the fire below have had the window frame you just crawled through crash on top of them.
All right.
So what do you do?
I am going to make my way down. I'm going to try to make my way down as fast as possible to help them, like, move the window frame off of them so they can get back to fighting the fire, so we can get back to getting everyone out as quickly as possible.
All right, cool. So, you move down. You head for the ladder. That leads up to the gantries. You get to them and you start pulling the wreckage off of them. It's not a lot of wreckage, but they're near a fire and it hit them pretty hard, so they're a little stunned. They're wearing their work overalls and they're kind of, let's see. You recognize them as one of the people who takes over for your shift, Robert. He's sort of a middle-aged man, and he's sort of a little concussed. He's sort of pawing ineffectually, like, what's... So, what do you do?
I'm going to smile with my biggest... I'm going to put on my bravest shit-eating grin.
All right.
And say, Bobby, it's good to see you. Come on, we gotta move, Bobby.
All right, so I would like you to make time. Roll plus soft. You're trying to convince somebody to stay calm.
Right. That's a 4.
All right.
Give me that.
Roll a d6.
3.
Yeah, give me a...
that is a 3.
You're still good, but Bobby isn't. Bobby's sort of... he's having a little bit of a panic attack. Bobby was in the last war, and he's never been good with the loud noises and fire. So he starts losing it a bit. He breaks away from you. He's a much larger man than you, and he sprints into deeper into the factory and into the smoke. Sort of shouting something about the Huns are back and they're in the lines. So what do you do? You look deeper in the factory and you can see, there's a lot of smoke and a lot of stuff piled atop things, but the damage doesn't actually look too bad in here.
How's everyone else? I know there were several people under the window frame.
So you check them. They're getting up. They're brushing themselves off. They don't look nearly as bad. Bobby took the brunt of it, being the tallest.
All right.
There's some burning planks and some of the sheets that have blown in front of the door, which is why nobody can get out through the front. And then there's people who are moving towards the loading docks in the background, but it's difficult to see because the lights are out and the blackout conditions outside have made everything very dark.
Here's a rescue services question.
Yep.
Would and this might end up being a judgment call for Moxie, but would the protocol be to encourage them to keep fighting the fire, or would it be to tell them to get out of the building?
I think that would probably be a little bit of a judgment call. Normally you'd be working with a larger team, but you rolled a 1.
Right. Yeah.
So you're sort of it at the site, so it's up to you.
All right. In that case, yeah. I know exactly.
Your job is to get people out, though.
Okay, well...
Like, that. Your primary job is always saving lives.
Well, I don't have a crew at the moment, so if they are taking a role, if they were taking an active role in trying to put out fires, then they are going to become my crew.
All right.
So I'm going to stand everyone, help everyone to their feet, help the group to their feet, and say, welcome to Rescue Services, everyone. We have to help pull some people out of this building.
All right, so this sounds exactly like taking charge. All right. Roll plus bold.
It's a +1. That's a 7.
Nice. So I will... All right, so a couple of people immediately snap to, and what are you having them do?
I start surveying the area and trying to pinpoint, I start telling them, find people, dig them out, move them out. 3 steps, easy to follow. Well,
all right, cool. So
easy-ish to follow.
2 of the people, there was 3 people who were under the window other than Bob, who's run off. So Ruth and Albert, they move to start digging people out. they almost immediately start finding people. The machinery has already run down, and a lot of people are just sort of, trying to find something heavy and safe to stand under in case another bomb falls. So they're quickly moving people towards the loading docks, helping people who are confused. And Lois, she just says, are you crazy? Let me out of here. I gotta get home. I gotta get out of here. So she bolts and doesn't help. You hear sort of some creaking of metal from above, and one of the gantries in the factory is starting to sag, and it sounds like Kenneth might be up on it, trying to figure out a way to get down.
All right. Well, if the crew is taking care of people, I'm going to.
And I will raise because you got some people organized. I'm going to raise the site state by 1, which means when you roll to move on, it's easier.
Great. I'm going to take half a second to just yell to Lois, "You were shit anyway!" And then I'm just gonna run off to try and to get to Kenneth to get him down from the gantry.
All right, cool. So you find, sort of moving around in the dark. Wait, I believe you have a flashlight as the rescue services. Yes, you do. So yes, you do. So you turn your flashlight on. You go searching for Kenneth, and you find he's sort of he's got both his feet up against the safety rail of the gantry, which is bending at like a 45-degree angle towards the ground. He's fairly high up, and it's broken off. And he's, is that you, Moxie? Could you help me get down? I don't reckon these knees will survive. What is that? 9 feet? I'd like to get down a little easier than that.
Can I find a ladder or something else similar that I can grab? That's not baked.
Maybe you can.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Actually, yeah. You grab one of the little step ladders that you use to get stuff off the high shelves in the back, and you bring it over, and you can climb up to him, or you can let him try to drop down.
All right, yeah. I'm going to yell out to him. Do you want me to climb up, or do you want to climb down?
I could try getting a little bit lower, and then maybe I can't see the ladder in the dark.
Perfect. Do that. I'll do that. I'll grab you. We'll come down together.
All right. Cool. So, to do our rescuing thing, this would probably be, press on.
All right.
Let's do that. And then we got to deal with our exhaustion mechanics.
Yes. That is a 9. On a 9, I'm going to, I'm gonna take the injury.
All right. Cool. So,
as he kind of falls on me, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. I think you make it most of the way up the ladder. He makes it most of the way down the walkway. You meet in the middle. He tries to put his weight on the ladder, and the ladder, which is pretty cheap, just immediately collapses. And you end up breaking his fall, which is good for him, and you take 1 harm.
All right.
As you sort of hit your head a little bit. It's a good thing you're wearing a helmet.
Yeah.
All right. So your ears are ringing, and you sort of lead him to out, you think your nose is bleeding a little, which isn't super great. Most of the people seem to be safe, but the fire's spreading on the inside, of the building. What do you do?
I say to Kenneth, when this is all said and done, I'll get an extra few days of vacation. As I kind of wipe some of the blood away from my nose.
I think you might have earned it. If we had any vacation time, there's a war on,
Yeah, well, it's got to end eventually. Right?
It'll be over by Christmas.
So, yeah, I'm going to lead Kenneth. I'm going to lead Kenneth towards the exit and sort of say, and sort of like nudge him in the ribs and say, "You're the boss around here. Be the boss. Round up who's standing."
All right, so you have taken 5 exhaustion at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So you see the breaks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you got to select one of those and roll 2d6.
Okay. Got it. Rolling 2d6. I got a 6.
Okay, that's not super great.
Nope.
All right, so recover 1 exhaustion.
Okay.
So you're probably going to have to take a breather here.
Yep.
All right, so which of the breaks did you select?
I chose short.
Okay, cool. So you sort of have take a moment against one of the trucks in the loading area. And you glance back into the factory and you notice it's a little brighter in the factory than it was because the fire from the front of the building is starting to spread along the stacked textiles against the walls and the shelves. And things aren't looking super great in terms of saving the factory, but it doesn't sound like there's any more people inside.
Win's a win. Win's a win.
All right.
So I'm going to, if the people aren't safe, I'm going to settle in the loading dock, just like between. I'm going to
take a break.
Yeah, I'm going to take a break, but I'm going to take a break like against a car, so that if things escalate badly, I can hop into a car.
That's a pretty good idea. All right, so basically, here's what you're doing. You're basically betting rolls on the raid clock against exhaustion you're removing. Mm-hmm. So how many rolls would you like to make?
I would like to make 3 rolls.
All right, cool. So roll them all.
All right.
Tell me what you get.
1, 6, and 2.
All right, cool. And you can, because you've stand down for 3 breaks, 3 rolls, you can remove a break.
All right.
So you're sitting up against the car and you're sort of listening as the engines roar overhead and the firefighters start arriving. And then you hear, you're hearing the crash of bombs in the distance and the burst of flak in the air, which sounds a little like fireworks. And then one of those crashes is pretty close by. You've got rid of your exhaustion. I'm going to say that because everybody's out and you got Kenneth out, the sight state is at +1 if you'd like to move on. If you don't, the other sight that's happening will get worse. But sometimes you need to deal with one before you move on to the other.
I think I'm gonna if the people are out, if it sounds like the people are out, I'm gonna move on.
Cool. So, roll, +1. 2d6 +1.
That is a 5.
Gosh!
I'm not rolling great today.
No, not really. As you leave, you see the fire spreading rapidly. The firefighting teams are arriving, but it's a textile plant. It's going up like a firework, and you probably have to find a new job in the morning.
Yeah. Well, so at least Kenneth owes me a favor.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you can spin that into something. So take a roll move. All right. One of your new moves, and we'll move on to the next site.
I'm going to take...
Steady on. When you size up, use nerves instead of wise. Bit helpful. More nerves and brains, after all.
Nerves of steel. That's why they call me Moxie.
Excellent. All right, cool. So you start moving towards the next, the place where you heard the crash. You're seeing the smoke sort of billow up over the buildings. And you realize as you're getting closer, as you dart down an alley, that it's the bingo hall that got hit. Which it's probably not just a bingo hall. It's like sort of it's a little bit of a community center. Yeah. The post office is in there. There's some stuff that's used to be an old Victorian workhouse.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a general community center. So it's as you round the corner, you see that it is now like a general community hole in the ground, because something very large has landed on it and blown a huge hole out the middle of it. Smoke is billowing out of this sort of old Victorian brick building. All the windows have shattered outwards. All of the street is just covered in rubble. And there's people sort of wandering around, sort of in a daze, trying to figure out what to do as air raid wardens and the first of the first aid parties move up. So what do you do?
I'm going to size up the situation. I'm going to look around, try to get my bearings, try to get a handle on what needs done and who needs rescued, and who I can count on to have my back to do all of that.
Cool. So, this is still plus wise because you are not in danger at the moment.
Right. Oh, come on. That is a 2.
That is, oh my god. Okay, so first up, let's get a roll on the raid chart.
That's another 1. This is going very well.
Yeah, so as you're just moving towards the bingo hall, which is it's a -4 site, like it is a bad scene. Something burns overhead, just this scream over your head as a plane flies really low over the streets, and then you can hear the mechanism as it attaches the bombs and starts gaining altitude. It looks like it's got an engine out. And the bombs land pretty close by, and you can identify just from the distance what street and probably what building it landed on, because you think it just plowed into your house. So, what do you do?
I gotta get home.
Alright, so move on right off the start. You don't have to deal with the site if you don't want to. Roll.
Yeah, I'm not gonna...
-4.
I can't risk family and neighbors, and they've got scenes on... People on the scene already. I gotta move on.
Alright. -4 for this site. Let's see how it does.
Well, that's a negative. It's a negative, a negative
holy
2.
Shit. Yeah, so, as we sort of get a shot of your character running down the street, from down the street as the bingo hall collapses in on itself, and one of the undetonated explosives inside goes off, spreading, stone across the street, and, knocking over some of the survivors. So, you round the corner, you can see your apartment building, and you see that the plane that was desperately trying to gain altitude, failed to do so before it crashed, sort of pancaked down onto the roof of your house, on the roof of your apartment. It's like a sort of a 5-story Victorian building built out of sort of an extension of an older building. So the lower 3 floors are tough and stone, and the upper floors are brick extensions. The plane has plowed through and collapsed the top floor. The street in front of it has these huge divots in them from where the bombs that were released earlier had landed and gone off. You can see that they passed right through the buildings on the opposite side of the street and buried into the road. So water is pouring forth from the utility lines, and the building is burning from the fuel leaking from the wings of the plane. What do you do?
I'm running inside before I get a chance to, get a sense of things, because this is real bad, and I don't really have time to be cautious. I tried to be cautious before, and this is too close and too personal.
Fair enough. All right, so you throw open the doors to the building, and you start moving up the narrow and steep staircase towards your apartment and towards your floor. You live on so let's say the 3rd floor, the last of the old floors. So people are trying to move down the floor, but a lot of people look very out of it. You're sort of passing people by. A lot of them are, obviously wounded or bleeding, but most of these ones are moving. So as you get to your floor, you see that your apartment door has burst open, and there's a landing gear where you're basically where your apartment once was. That has crashed through everything. So you smell the gasoline that is pouring out of the ruined wings of the aircraft above as it sort of drips down the wall nearby. What do you do?
Well, I'm here. I made it. And I laugh a little bit as I think that to myself. And
you did. You have made it.
Not a lot of sense in trying to rescue my things. So, I'm going to try and guide some people out of the building or dig people out if they're hurt and guide people through. I guess I'm gonna, now that I'm around, look around and try to size up who needs help and what I can do to help them.
So you are definitely in danger. There's, gasoline dripping down the walls, and, it's a bad scene, so roll plus nerve.
That is 7.
Oh, you got another move, by the way, when you moved on from the other side.
Oh, even better.
Yeah. So you can grab another rescue service move.
I'm going to take closure.
Closure. When you retrieve dead bodies, hold 1. Spend 1 hold for a +1 bonus to stand down.
Okay, might be a good one.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna take closure. And I got 7 on my my size up.
Okay, so hold 2 and spend 2 ask.
I get some extra question. No, I don't, because I took steady on and not steady eye. Who is in the greatest danger?
So your landlady lived in one of the new apartments above, and actually, lived on the apartment immediately above yours, and judging by the gasoline and the giant wheel that has smashed through your door, she's probably in a pretty bad, Mildred is probably not doing super great. She's also an older woman who probably doesn't have the ability to get out on her own.
Alright, how can I get in there?
So you run towards you can just take the stairs up, but there's a lot of airplane in the way. Mm-hmm. So, you might have to do some climbing over some up and over some, rubble and bricks and stuff to do so. But you can get up the stairway.
That's exactly what I'm gonna do, is do whatever climbing it's gonna take. I'm going to try and clear stuff out of the way to make it easier to move. If there's anything light that I can move that can make a path, because if she's going to have difficulty getting down, I want it to be as easy as possible for her.
All right, cool. So, you make it up to the first landing, no problem, and you see the second portion of it has a propeller blade that has sort of crashed through the wall and fallen down. So you do your best to move that out of the way. You push it to one side of the stairway. You clear some of the bricks that people might fall over in the dark, and you push on up into the fourth floor of the building. So the fourth floor has a lot of sort of twisted parts. The plane didn't seem to hit it extremely fast, so the sort of just to the right of Mildred's apartment, that room has been crushed by the bulk of the plane, which has dented and twisted inwards, but is still mostly there. The little observation pod on the underside of the plane has smashed completely, and you can see sort of protruding out of the windows is the body of a German gunner from the aircraft. And the door to Mildred's apartment is hanging slightly open. What do you do?
I'm going to survey the situation again, try to get a better handle on everything that is in the area.
Okay. You are still very much in danger.
That is a 10. Finally.
Nice!
Finally.
So, you get 4 asks.
The first question, as I'm studying this German soldier's body and the wreckage of the plane, what here is valuable?
Oh, good question. Well, you know that the German aircraft have all sorts of doodads and expensive doohickeys on them that you could probably, make a killing off of from either just from getting them to the government and collecting the reward, because they're always looking for the electronics and they're talking all the time about the following radar beams and all sorts of fancy stuff. And not only that, but you know that the German Air Force, of course the German Air Force is rich, right? They've probably got watches, they've got, maybe they have pistols. A pistol can score a lot of money on the black market.
Alright, I am going to try to take that for myself.
Alright, so you move over to the body of the gunner, and you find his...
I'm going to spend a hold before I do that. What danger am I overlooking?
Oh, this guy's dead, but you don't know if the rest of them are. You have no idea, and it doesn't look like the plane hit that hard.
That's a good thing to think about, Moxie. Where's Mildred?
Mildred is almost certainly in her apartment.
Okay. And, what's gonna give way first?
You suspect that the plane might not stay where it is very long. It might slide off the roof or deeper into the building.
Alright, I'm going to try and just give him a quick spot check for a watch, and snatch that if I can. A pistol,
sure,
maybe.
You don't find a pistol on him. You find a grenade, which you leave the hell alone.
No, not touching
unless
that.
You don't. Yeah. But you find a watch. It's not working right now, but it looks valuable. It might be one of those Swiss things. So you take that off his wrist, and you also see that, there's the machine guns in the gunner's nest, but you don't touch those either. You don't think you could carry them, for one, and it's not going to be easy to sneak past anyone.
Right, exactly.
So collective victory for your sticky fingers.
That's a victory.
And what do you do now?
I'm going to head into Mildred's room, and if it's not immediately disastrous, like if I have a moment, I'm going to take a moment.
Okay, cool. So you head into Mildred's room, and Mildred is, as you walk into the room, you see Mildred is dead. She is lying on her bed, and some, pieces of glass and shrapnel have torn through the room, and so she's just lying there. So, you take a look around. You can see there's a huge hole torn through her wall, and you can see the open bomb bay of the bomber sort of next door now, and you take a seat in her big plushy armchair, and you just sort of watch for a little bit. So, how many rolls you want to make here?
I'm gonna make 2.
All right.
4 and 1. Not great.
Not great, but not the worst. Because there's no more sites, what's going to happen here is that this site's going to get a little worse, and I know exactly how it's going to happen. You're sitting sort of staring at this, you can see the other wing of the bomber protruding out over the street, one of the propellers sort of spinning a little awkwardly. And then you hear footsteps moving around nearby against metal. Somebody yells something in a foreign language, and then a bunch of they look like, sort of foot-long cylindrical sticks drop out, sort of rattle out of the bomb bay of the bomber that is, sitting next door, and then they start spinning and fizzing like a Roman candle.
Time to leave.
Yeah, probably. So, what do you do?
Just blind dash back down the stairs. And try to get back down to the lower floors to see if anybody else. Oh, well, actually, I can't leave Mildred here. It's not right.
All right, so you're gonna try to pick Mildred up and take her with you?
It's not right to leave her.
Okay.
She was nice in her way.
You pick up Mildred, sort of fireman style, and you make a dash for it. So I would like you to press on, please.
Right. 7.
All right, so choose one. Injured, situation gets worse, somebody else is endangered.
I'll take the injury.
All right, so you start, you grab her and you start sprinting down the stairs. The floor below, as you reach it, has already started to be engulfed in flames from the incendiary bombs that have dumped out of this aircraft. So as you start moving towards the next set of stairs, your foot goes right through the weakened floorboards, and you get a nasty gash across your leg. But you press on, you make it to the bottom floor, and you stagger out the door. You see that rescue services of, more official backup, the air raid wardens, everybody's starting to arrive. Somebody takes Mildred off your hands, and you sort of stagger out and watch as the burning building starts to collapse in on itself, and the plane slides off in behind the building and sort of nose first into the ground behind. You can see the tail sticking up from the now much shorter building. What do you do?
I need to find an air warden.
All right. So yeah, you stagger over to somebody with a big W on their helmet, and sort of wave weakly. You're feeling a little woozy from the injury that is just now starting to register.
Barely really able to like coherently speak. I'm like, they might still be inside. And I'm trying to point at the I'm trying to like point at the plane, like they might still be in there.
Germans, you mean?
Yeah, that's the word. Yes.
Right. Bugger. We are... Alright. Go find the Home Guard representative. I saw a truck up the street. I'm gonna get everybody clear. Oh, you're looking a little... Do you think you're up to it? Can you get to the Home Guard?
I am already starting to run in that direction.
Alright, cool. So I think that this is going to be sort of our last incident of the night. So let's press on real quick.
Alright.
Let's do a final take on this.
And that is an 11.
Nice. So you round the corner and you see that what he was talking about, the Home Guard, he was referring to, there's the Dad's Army, as they call them, are rolling out in they're very proud. You saw it earlier this week. They were trying to show it off. Their homemade armored car. So, it's just a regular car that they've, nailed a bunch of metal to. But you quickly get their attention and you tell them about the Germans up the street, and they're like, oh, finally, we get to do something. We get to be useful and not just parade around. So they tell you to hop in the back, and they're heading back. So you crawl into the back, and this older man offers you a cigarette and says, it's about time they landed around here. We'll finally get to give them what's for.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Have fun.
Oh, we will. Don't you worry. And they jump out the back, and one of them trips over himself as he does so.
Sounds about
right.
And
you watch as your home, your apartment, collapses a little bit further in on itself as the plane's tail settles basically where your apartment used to be. And I would think you have one more roll to move on, and we'll do the epilogue.
Yep, I'm going to spend my 1 hold for that, plus 1 for that.
Excellent.
What is the site state?
The site state is -2.
So that's going to be -1 total?
Yes.
Alright. That's a 2.
Oh boy, you really did a roll.
Really did.
This whole game.
It's been a rough dice ain't been my friend here.
Yeah, no, so I think you have 1 victory total because you stole a watch.
I have 1 victory, and I know exactly what it is.
Alright, cool. What is your 1 victory?
I think Moxie watches her home burn. Watches pretty much everything she's ever owned burn. And she kind of just, if I can add a detail. If I can put something on my person.
Absolutely.
I have a family portrait.
Oh no.
And it's me as a young girl, and I'm looking at my family, and I guess I would have been a baby, because this is around right before the Great War.
Alright.
Because Jaxie's there, and he's not there. He's not around England anymore. And I look at it, and I'm like, well, you always did fucking hate England, didn't you? Because that's what we got from his letters. So she leaves. She finds a new life outside of England. I think she ends up in America. I think she ends up in New York in the 50s. You know, gets to be an old bird in the 60s.
Excellent. Oh man, I do like our sort of conclusion to this story is everything burns down and everything sucks, so you just leave.
Just kind of, yeah, I there's nothing here to hold me anymore. I don't have a job, I don't have a home, I don't even have a bingo hall. So, let's try something new. And I think it works out okay, because she's, somebody with her temperament and her skills and her sense of her upstart sensibilities, I think is going to do okay in post-war New York. You know?
Alright, excellent. Yeah, no, definitely. Oh man, this whole family can't catch a break.
Nope, they really can't.
Oh man. Oh.
Fun fact, I'm gonna say it on mic now. Whether he's dead, I don't know if he's dead, but I do know that originally that was my planned ending for Jackson Fletcher was, fuck it, I'm going to New York. But,
yeah.
Who knows? Maybe he's also there. Maybe he's dead in a ditch somewhere. Guess we'll find out eventually.
Yeah. Oh man, I need to just keep writing games where you can play as this family having misfortunes through history.
Yep, the terrible historical lives of this extended family.
Oh my god.
Erika, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for putting the single player version of this through its paces.
Of course, it turned out really well. I was really happy with it. The one question I had from a gameplay mechanic perspective,
yep,
is how do bonds factor into things?
So I actually bombs are just treated like threats.
No, bonds, not bombs.
Bonds. So the bonds, they didn't come up at any point because you're sort of on the move a lot. But the way that bonds usually work is that you can spend them to do help, or to make your help more helpful. And this is sort of a mechanic I came up with for Flying Circus that, I mean, obviously it's difficult to use when it's single player, right?
Mm-hmm, right, sure. That's one of the reasons I wanted to ask, was because I know we didn't get to play with it, and
yeah. So the way it works is that the help mechanic in this game isn't like the help interfere in regular Apocalypse World. It's when somebody helps you, you roll 3d6 and pick the highest. Mm-hmm. And you can spend bond to add even more dice to that. So it basically starts getting, like, very likely that you'll get successes, right? Mm-hmm. But the downside is that if one of those dice is a 1, one of the discarded dice is a 1, that's a fault, which is you make a hard move against the person who's helping instead of the people.
That's neat. I like that a lot.
It works well here where it's like, the person who's holding something open for you to work or whatever, it falls on them, something collapses on them, something catches fire near them. And it works well in Flying Circus where, if somebody's covering your approach in the air, it makes sense that they might get hit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's super cool.
So,
what a good game. This is super good. I love this game a lot.
I'm really proud of it and how quickly it came together too. Like I wrote it on vacation in 45 minutes, the first version of this game, like in my hotel room. And it sat on my hard drive for a little bit. And then I was like, I need a monthly game. Let's just do it. And it went from first draft to completed game in 3 weeks with the help of no sleep at all.
That's really very impressive. So, real quick, before we wrap up, where can people find your work online?
Cool. You can, if you find my Twitter, which is @OpenSketchbook, you can find links to pretty much everything else.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a blast, and I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me.
Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Erika for coming on the show. That game was maybe the worst I have ever rolled in any role-playing game ever, and it was a lot of fun. My goodness. You should absolutely check out Blackout. It is a super fun game, and you should really check out all of Erika's games because she makes amazing games. You can find links to all of that in the show notes. You can also follow Erika on Twitter @open_sketchbook. Then while you're on Twitter, you can follow this show at Party of One Pod, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/partyofonepodcast. If you enjoyed the show, consider giving us a nice iTunes review, social media shout out, or word of mouth recommendation. All of those things help new listeners find the show to help us achieve bigger, better, and cooler things. If you want to hear more from me, consider checking out All My Fantasy Children, the podcast in which Aaron Catano-Saez and I take your listener prompts and turn them into beautiful, thriving, vibrant role-playing game children. That can be found at allmyfantasychildren.libsyn.com. If you enjoy the show, consider backing us on Patreon. Patreon dollars pay for convention appearances like Gen Con, as well as equipment fees, hosting costs, and other expenses. And Patreon backers get access to bonus audio, mini podcasts, and interviews. You can find all of that at patreon.com/partyofonepodcast. Party of One is produced and edited by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Megaran, featuring the D&D Sluggers. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates coming onto the show, or you want to hear my hot takes about candy, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. Here's a little preview for you. The best flavor of M&M's? Mint. There you go. Well, that's it for me. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-care and self-love are radical acts of resistance. And as always, party on.
Never gonna die.